Humans are just the worst, aren't they? Just the worst. Oh, thank you. Okay, let's talk about cultists and evil people. Whenever we're talking about humanoid creatures, orcs, goblins, but also our cultists here, one of the challenges becomes providing different types of encounters, differences of kind. With monsters, it's pretty easy because all the monsters have different abilities and different stats, and you have this one that will give you lycanthropy, this one that causes you to be petrified, this one that has disintegration rays and sleep rays and all that kind of stuff. Those become easier to do. With something like a bandit, or a cultist, you have to provide different kinds of units. You have your casters, you have your frontline bruisers, you have your interceptors. You can think of them like, I'm not a sports ball person, but you can think of them like a football team. I need the front lineman. I need the quarterback in the back that's throwing the spells. You need that mixed unit so that it feels different. We have cultists, but we also have the cult fanatic, and we can use acolytes, and we can give them magical powers that allows us to have a different experience if we have two cultists and an acolyte versus two cultists and a couple bandits. Because the bandits are also melee characters, as the cultists are, but they have crossbows in the back, so they're going to try to attack with that and find cover and find ways around our players' magical abilities. With something like our bandits or cultists, I try to use the environment a lot more, make a dynamic encounter environment more than I would say with like a dire bear or an otiug or a treant or something like that. These creatures, these people, are aware of the environment they're in, and they're going to try to push, shove, get up on things, stab down, swing on chandeliers, all that kind of stuff to get tactical advantages the same way players should. And if your players are new, you can use this as an opportunity to show them all the stuff that they can do with that environment. Jump up on the tables and say that gives you advantage because you're stabbing down. You might feel that that's a little bit weird, but standing up on a table is a height advantage over someone else. And it's not just like a step. So when someone says, I'm stepping up higher on the stairs. Now you have to be significantly higher. Tables aren't just chairs. You're like 3 or 4 steps higher, and you can still move around. On the opposite side, now that you're on a table, what happens if someone shoves the table and you go flying through the air and land up prone at the feet of whatever evil warlord that's just going to stab you down with their lance? You can shove people into the fires, and now they're taking 1d6 burning damage unless they take a round to extinguish it. You can use a chandelier and say, I grab on the chandelier, do a dexterity acrobatics check to fly across the room and get much more movement than I normally would. Is that cool? Yes, it is. Is it in the rules? Not really. Show the players how to do that with your monsters. The monsters are aware that they can flip the tables over, and that's going to provide cover. It covers half your body. That's at least a +2 to your armor class per the rules. They can get down behind it entirely, then pop up and fire away. Isn't that a little bit much? No, you can fall prone as a free action and then use half your movement to get up, fire, and then fall prone again back there so that the players actually have to worry about the fact that there's archers there instead of just saying, hey, wizard, can you just get them out of there? It's going to give them bonuses to the reflex saves. It makes it a tactical problem for the players to solve, and it gives them ideas for the future, which can be a huge help in turning encounters that feel like they're unfair. Say the gargoyle is encountered with 3 or 4 cultists because the players made a lot of noise and some come in and you're like, a gargoyle, 3 or 4 cultists against a level 2 group of players, that's ridiculous. That's a lot. It is if they're all going to stand and fight, but if you've shown the players how to use bottlenecks, how to get cover, how to get height advantages, how to use all that, they can very easily turn something that should be overwhelming into something that actually makes them feel like they're special forces adventurers that know their way around swords and sorcery. We also want to make sure that our characters have slightly different motivations. We're using cultists and bandits here. We're lumping them under cultists, but they are cultists and bandits. The difference in the cultist versus the bandit is the cultist is a true believer. This person is not going to break. They believe that their life is going to be better by summoning orcs or empowering Vecna, and now Vecna will make us live forever as zombie minions. Okay. They're committed to this act. If you capture one and try to interrogate them, they're not going to break because they're so committed, so into whatever this cult is, then they're not willing to do it. I don't care that you rolled a 30. Oh, well, yes, I sold my whole family to orcs, but that 30 there, that convinced me of the error of my ways, and now I'm going to tell you everything about this cult and where we get our powers. However, the bandits are just kind of along for the ride. Whenever you have some sort of upset, something that's wrong inside, you have those that are willing to take advantage, to commit evil acts, to murder and pillage the worst parts of human nature. But that also means they're willing to break and run. If our cultists are dying, even our leader cultist, and bandits are left over, the bandits could throw down their swords. The bandits may surrender, especially if they know that there's a paladin or somewhere that's a goodly figure and go, hey, look, we can keep fighting if you really want, but we may take some of you with us. Is that really what you want? Or can we go, and if we meet each other in the woods, we can settle it then, but we're going to live to fight another day, both of us, if you'll just let us leave. Maybe the players let them do it. Maybe they charge in and say, no, we're cutting the ribbons. Okay, but you get that release valve to say these are different. They're not all committed to the cause, and you can have some people run away if you really need them to. We're in a cathedral because that's proper D&D nonsense. I've been playing a lot of Diablo, and it's a great way to telegraph to people that these are evil people. Here's this place that should have been holy, should have been a refuge, a sanctuary for the downtrodden, the helpless, for healing, and it has been converted to evil. You should not feel bad about killing the people that have done that in a fantasy world. Plus, we've got undead in here. Again, total Diablo nonsense. But if you're not putting a gargoyle in a cathedral, you're missing the trick here. Gargoyles in cathedrals, like that's a player expectation. You should get to fight a gargoyle in a cathedral. So we put our gargoyle in here. Because they can fly, and that gives them, they can move out of melee range if they need to. That'll annoy your melee players, so don't do it too often or else they'll just sit there going, okay, well, I'm useless in this fight. Thanks. Get a bow, dude. You can shoot a bow. They won't. Many players will just sit there with their sword just going, what am I supposed to do? What we can do with them that will give our melee players an opportunity to try to figure out how to do something is we can grab people. Replace one of its attacks with a grapple. Our gargoyle has 2 attacks. It has a bite and a claw attack. So we swoop in on the first round. We have fly speed of 60. Swoop in down from out of the cathedral, pounce on our cleric, and we bite with the first attack. Oh, it's a little bit of damage. That's no problem. Then we grapple. Players are going, grapples? Why'd he grapple? That's weird. And then they have a full round to kind of figure out what's going on until the next round. Now that we've grappled a target, most player races are medium or small. I can't think of any that are bigger than that, so in which case the grapple wouldn't work. Even gnomes and halflings would cut a gargoyle down to half speed. It flies down. It's now 30 feet around that it can fly, and it can move the target. So it's grappled, and it starts flying up. It flies up 30 feet, and all the players are going to go, oh, that's a lot of damage. That's 3d6 damage. 30 feet, 3d6 damage. If it took a dash action, it's now all the way to the ceiling. It's now 5d6. And it drops whoever that is on the next round because it dashed. You could say that dropping a character is a free action, but I would want to give the players an opportunity to adjust to this reality. To go, okay, what do we do about this? What do we do? Can we catch them? Does anyone have like feather fall that they can use a reaction? What can we do to try to help this person that is about to take a lot of damage from falling and drop? I wouldn't do that too often. I would do it the first time, and I might do it one more time during the fight a few rounds later. If you do it too often, it will start to wear on your players. It goes, They're never in melee range, and they're just sitting there dropping us. And this fight is annoying and it's becoming tedium, as we just really hope that the wizard or cleric or sorcerer, whatever you have, is bringing them down at range. And of course, the gargoyle is going to target whoever it is that's doing that, because why wouldn't you? You're not stupid. You're a gargoyle. You're going to try to get rid of whoever it is that is a threat to you. But if you do it once, the players now know it's there, and as soon as the gargoyle comes back down to attack, they're going to assume that it's going to try to grapple another person, so they're all going to be in range. The players might even come up with the idea of like, well, can I grapple on to my friend at the same time that the gargoyle is grappling my friend? Sure, go right ahead, which case is not contested, because your friend, who does not want to be lifted off the ground by a gargoyle and dropped from 50 feet up, is totally going to not kick you in the face for doing that. You now have two medium creatures that are holding the gargoyle down, and now the gargoyle can't lift off. So now the gargoyle will return to normal melee attacking until it can get to somewhere that it's able to do that again. If you want, you can have the gargoyle pick up and leave. I personally wouldn't, because I want the players to feel victorious, especially if I did manage to drop a player. They're going to feel extra good about beating this gargoyle down and turning him into rubble, because he dropped our friend from 50 feet up, and that was a lot of damage, and it was kind of rude of you. At the end of the adventure, we need something that is going to lead our players to another opportunity. What is next in the adventure? Our players may totally ignore that. They may go, that sounds pretty bad. I don't really want to go off into a swamp and fight a hag. How about we go fight that dragon that I heard about over in that mountain over there? And they want to go do that. Cool. That's fine. That's what they do. That's why you have these at the end of the adventure, and you set aside some time to do a little bit of a conclusion, find out what your adventurers are thinking of doing, what your players are going, okay, what do you guys want to do next? Here's the leads you have of, maybe they still have the graveyard, maybe they still have the miller and what's going on there, and now they have that there's some witch out in the swamp. What is it that you guys feel is the next thing for you that gives you time to go in and plan that adventure? That's not railroading. That's saying, guys, I got a limited amount of time to plan this, and I need to know what you're planning for next time so that I can put together a dungeon and adventure and figure out what the NPCs are, what the treasure is, how the map works, all that kind of stuff. You need to tell me where you're going. But you also need to give them those, like, here are some ideas of things you could do. In this case, there's the necklace eye. They could smash that eye in the presence of the hag or the coven and do a lot of damage and make the hag blind. Hopefully they pick up on that. They may not. Maybe they take that to an expert in town. Maybe the acolyte in town knows what that is and can tell them, hey, this is what that's about. Maybe they can go interrogate the alderman and get her to dish out some information about what she knows. And then they go, oh, this is that hag's eye. Got it. Well, we can use that. So even if they fail these checks, they've got other opportunities to go get that information. Maybe the players go back into town and they talk to some of the villagers and they know that swamp. There's lots of useful things in a swamp. Maybe some of them have gone out there before to hunt frogs. I don't know. Whatever you do in a swamp. Maybe there's medicinal things in that swamp. Some of the trees, willow trees, have willow bark, and they use that as painkillers. That's where you get aspirin from. Maybe they know the witch is there. And they've gone, we leave her alone, and she leaves us alone because, we don't like that she's there, but we could wander in the swamp and get killed, or we could just mind our own business and hope everything goes well. That's kind of the mark of normal people in a fantasy world, is that they just kind of leave bad things alone, assuming or hoping that they'll just go away and then they'll leave them alone. That's what makes our heroes different from villagers. Next week, I think, is going to be the wrap-up of this kind of mini campaign, and we're going to talk about the Hag's Den and how we deal with her, maybe how we might hook it up to a larger adventure, and open the world up for our players. And I think we're going to go to about every 2 weeks because, name of the channel is DM with a day job. I got a day job. I also have my own adventures to plan for. And I think then we'll talk about maybe some more esoteric subjects. I think the first one I want to tackle is like how to use the mental stats, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma to define any character or monster, and how you can use that to start making a personality for these people and what those stats mean. Until then, if you would give it a like and a subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And until then, Dungeon Masters, remember you're player 2. Try to have some fun.